This week on Twende, we are still in Timau in an area called Embori. We visit a farm that is over a century old and learn its history. We get to learn how a commercial farm operates.
This is how it normally operates in the field. Okay. Below you can see some knives.
I get to visit the old farmhouse that still stands to date. I get to see a strange breed of cattle. Come, let us go back into time.
Wacha ni join mabeshte wangu.
This week we are still in Timau, and as we saw earlier, Timau is very big when it comes to farming. Some of the food and farm products you consume have a high chance of originating from Timau. We earlier had seen how this region is a major exporter of horticultural products. Today we explore another one of these big farms in Timau. 13 kilometers from Timau town on the A2 is one of the largest farms in the area. It is a 10,500 acre farm that practices mixed commercial farming. We go through a ritual which everyone has to go through before going in. Nyinyi mulianza kujua sanitizing the other day juu ya COVID, but on this farm, they have been doing this for almost a century. This helps keep out diseases from the farm. Located at 2,600 meters above sea level, this farm sits on the edge of the Mount Kenya Forest Park. For someone interested in large-scale commercial farming, this is one of the best places to visit. One can also get to see the old English houses that have been preserved to date. This is Embori Farm. The farm was started by a retired British soldier named Lionel Henry Hickson, who got the land as an allotment from the British government in 1920 and moved in with his wife Sibyl, not the horse. Ni vile tu kupata picha ya mke wake. Today the farm is sprinkled with trees all over, even small forests. Lakini back then, Embori was bare kama ugali bila mboga. However, this changed when he set out to plant trees around as windbreakers. Initially, the couple lived in a tent which would have been okay for Hickson, kwa vile yeye alikuwa ametoka kwa jeshi. It is said that to the locals he was known as Keneri Baridi, the cold cannon. When Sibyl's family heard that she was living in the tent in Africa, they were so upset. Wakaona huyu msichana wetu atakufa bure. By the way, hiyo ndio shida moja ya kuolewa na mtu ametoka kwa jeshi. Haoni shida ya kuishi maisha magumu. Kwa vile familia ya Sibyl walikuwa na kakitu, wakafanya kamchango kidogo ka 2,500 pounds, which by the way was equivalent to about 11 million Kenya shillings in today's money. Na wakamtumia, awache kuwaibisha. With this money, the Hickson set out to build a brick house in between these trees. This house was built in sections over the years, na hapo unaweza kuona vile mtu akiishi kwa shida huwa anaamua hatajifunga. Mrs. Hickson loved gardening and she wanted to provide a suitable place for her baby Jane. Her lovely gardens around the house have been well preserved to date.
Twende living room. One or two can even come. You know this place, there's a photo that shows guys out just outside this door in the 1950s. So you can just imagine how old this place is. Anyway, this is not the living room. Hii ni pre-living room. Hapa ndio unaishi. Wow. Hey, look at this. And voila. Hey. Na unakuja unakaa hapa. Wow. Wow. Alafu unakaa hapa. If it's cold, unawasha ka fireplace. Just chill. You can have maybe just like a small drink. Unasema, hey manze, nasikia nimechoka. Twende tulale. Haya. Voila! This is just one of the bedrooms. There are actually 6 rooms. And I think all of them have double beds. So as I imagine how many people you can host here. Boom! So originally this was Colonel Hicks' place. So I'm imagining alikuwa anakaa hapa, anaingia nazama ndani, ama anaanza pale alafu anakuja nazama, whichever is yours. Now you can enjoy a Colonel experience.
Visitors are welcome to stay in the farmhouse, where they can get a first-hand experience of how it must have been back in the day. Hickson originally got 3,000 acres of land and then expanded the farm. Some of the soldiers who had got the adjacent land weren't interested in settling here, and Sibyl wrote to them and they accepted to sell her the land at £2 per acre, getting 7,000 more acres. Hey, kuna vile tu huyu Colonel alipata tu mke mzuri. Sibyl sold the farm to another settler, Bob Wilson, in 1962, who then again sold it to Wango Investment Company, which has more than 10,000 shareholders. The farm has not been subdivided into small holdings as it happened to many farms after independence, as it was one of the set preconditions by Robert Wilson before sale. He wanted the farm run professionally, and half a century later, the farm has a management team that runs all the affairs.
Welcome to Wango Investment, Embori Farm.
Embori Farm.
Yeah, great to host you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Embori, where Embori now, what does it mean?
Embori is a Maasai name, meaning a plain.
A plain.
Initially, this area about 100 years ago,
we
didn't have any trees. We have photos for that.
Oh.
And so it was basically a plain all the way to the mountain.
All the way to the mountain, yes. And what do you grow here?
We are mixed farm.
Yeah.
Our main activity is wheat growing, barley and canola. We also have dairy, about 400 dairy animals and about 3,500 sheep.
Huh?
Yes. What you do.
Yes. And let me ask, you know, people may wonder, mbona watu wasipea tu tushamba twao? You know, why have this all this equal to your for like maybe like one investment? What is it all about?
For what we are doing, wheat, barley and canola growing is a highly mechanized farming. So if you subdivide this into small units, it's no longer viable. You cannot mechanize it and your yield also comes down. And then I think at policy level, even that's what the government is articulating. We try to manage our farm sizes, because as we continue subdividing our land, then it becomes difficult for profitable agricultural activity. And that impacts on our food security.
Okay. So these farms are better situated to service our food security.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. And how big is this land?
Our farm is 10,500 acres.
10,500 acres.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
that's including the valleys,
Yeah.
the forested areas.
Yes.
But on average, we do about 8,500 acres. That is
Okay.
farm. That's where we do our
That's the
cropping.
farm.
Yes, the rest we leave it for trees
Yeah.
and the livestock.
And the livestock.
Yes.
Now hapa kuna baridi. Is it ideal for growing wheat and all this and you said canola?
Yes, wheat will do well.
Yeah.
Barley will do well.
Yes.
Indeed, for barley, for good quality barley, you require fairly cold areas. I don't have the actual statistics how much the country produces,
Yes.
but I know Kenya just does about 20% of our wheat consumption. 80% is imported.
Oh.
The bulk,
80%.
80%.
Okay.
The bulk of it
Yeah.
coming from Ukraine,
Ukraine.
Russia. Yes.
Na sahi wanapigana.
Yes.
And invading Russian forces pressed deep into Ukraine as deadly battles reached the outskirts of Kiev.
Yes, kuna vile chapo yako inakuanga imetoka huko Russia na Ukraine, na kuna vile Europe wameamua kuwa na vita sijui zingine hapo, sijui Kuba, sijui nini, sijui wapi, sijui nini. Ai, chapo tena itakuwa pesa ngapi?
So what are we going to do? 80% is a lot.
I'm not sure they have the answers.
Yeah.
But our able government and our policy makers have to make policies that are conducive
Yes.
or give incentive for farmers to do more of the wheat.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
The full impact of this war will be felt in about a year, 2 years. Now Ukraine should be planting now. They are not planting because there is war.
yeah.
So it means the only wheat that came from Ukraine is what was already harvested and was already in the silos. It is not destroyed.
Yeah.
If they don't plant, it means that there will be that void, there will be that gap.
Large farms like this one help ensure that much needed food is grown locally and close to the people. Embori Farm has been producing food from the start of the 20th century to date, and most of the original farm infrastructure still stands over 100 years later.
These are heart of operation.
Yes.
These are garage.
Yes.
It's also the center of operation. That's where we do our planning. It's also, you can see the stores behind here.
Time has had an effect on the place. The buildings are the same ones, but the machinery has changed.
The reason why it's called a combined harvester, because it's able to cut, thresh, and clean.
How much can it cover in a day?
Depending on the terrain,
Yeah.
it can do between 70 and 100 acres.
It will take about 800 to 1,000 people to do what this combine harvester can do in one day.
What's happening?
This is how it normally operates in the field.
Okay.
Below you can see some knives
Yeah, they are knives. Yeah.
moving. That's what normally cut the wheat
Okay.
or the barley. Then you have this thing turning.
Yeah.
That is what pushes the wheat into a hole down there.
Okay.
Then inside there are drums
Yeah.
that threshes the wheat or the barley.
The harvest season is over, so sadly we can't see this machine in action today, but we will be seeing some other amazing machines later. Hickson kept a lot of sheep, as the moorland is a great place to rear these animals. In the 1950s, it is said that he almost quit farming after 300 of his sheep went over a precipice and died in 10 seconds. Fast forward 70 years later, sheep are still very common in Embori. They have over 3,500 of them here. They are being rounded up and brought to this age-old building. It is a building they dread to come to. Some will be taken, others will be left. Today I get to see the sheep facing the blade. Ni kunyolewa. Kwani ulikuwa unafikiria nini?
Unajinywanga. Wewe unakaa unajua kunyoa. Wewe.
Unajua hapo anachunga sikate matiti yakifika hapo.
Oh, okay. Huyu sasa ni msichana, mama. Ni mama. So very soon ndio itachukulia itengeneze kasweta kama kaskafu. Okay, hivi ama kabag. Tembe hivi. Hii inakaa kwanza bag poa. Kwapi handle? Tunabeba na handle.
Inanyolewa mara moja kwa mwaka.
Mara moja kwa mwaka.
The farm produces about 18 tons of wool a year, with most of it being exported. But that is set to change. The textile industries in Eldoret are set to buy most of the wool this year. After kunyolewa, the sheep are compensated. Wanawekwa kwa hii slide. Sijui kama kinyozi wetu wanaweza weka kitu kama hii, ama hiyo ndio kufikiria kama kondoo.
Wacha ni join mabeshte wangu.
The farm also has dairy cows that produce 20,000 liters of milk a year. Lakini kuna ng'ombe wengine special which you hardly see in Kenya. In 1954, Hickson introduced the Galloway's breed of cattle to Timau. These are breeds imported from Scotland. I've never seen cattle like these. They almost look like moving blankets that have just come from blow drying.
Sijaiona ng'ombe zenye ziko na manyoya hivi. Unaona? Imevaa pam. Imefanya relax nywele ikavuta blow dry nini. And then look at this, the size of this bull. Naweza tembea hivi.
These cattle are specially bred for beef. Due to the breed's natural dense insulating hair coat, the Galloway's does not layer on excessive outside fat. Yani, haina mafuta mingi. Given that we are almost at 3,000 meters above sea level, these bovines surely need these fur coats. At 2,700 meters above sea level, it may look like the only thing that can kill you here is a cold. But then again, you are next to Mount Kenya forest, where there is wildlife. It is not just domestic animals found here. Wildlife roams freely around the farm. It is not the gazelles that are dangerous, but leopards also roam here. Ndio maana unahitaji wachungaji hapa. Farming on 1 acre or 2 sio shida kwa mtu mmoja. But now when you have to prepare, plant and spray on thousands of acres, it would require thousands of people. But on a large-scale farm like this one, the machines have taken over. Back at the garage, the planters are being prepared to go out. This farm is extensive and manual labor would be very intensive.
This is an air-assisted drill. There are two compartments with fertilizer and seeds. And using air under pressure, the two are mixed and they come with these tubes. Then this tube drop the seeds. You can see the seeds together with the fertilizer. Very small.
We missed the harvesting season, but we are just in time to get the planters. One compartment is filled with fertilizer and the other with seeds.
Manze nitamaliza kweli.
On average, one person takes a whole day to plant an acre. This tractor does 50 acres in a day. The land is so extensive that even one tractor can't complete the job. They have to use 3 tractors together, working from morning to evening for several days. Kenya's population is projected to reach about 80 million people by 2050, and all those people will need a lot of food. With the size of farmland reducing because of increased population, large-scale farms help to ensure a constant supply of food, especially when there are global conflicts. Over 100 years after Embori Farm was started, most of the surroundings remain the same. The original farmhouse still stands, the garage still has the same buildings, the sheep are still in the pens, the dairy cows still supply milk, the galloways are still grazing, the trees planted by Hickson still stand tall, and the fields are still producing food. I have gotten to see vehicles the size of buildings.
Yes.
I've experienced large-scale farming and understood its importance. I have witnessed a Scottish breed of cows grazing in Kenyan lands, and I have walked the halls of history in this century-old guest house.